Like, who does a TikTok video, a TikTok reaction video in a stadium full of people? I don't know exactly where he is, but enjoy this piece of wondrous, narcissistic rubbish that we're going to watch right now.
This is the way you greet voters.
I'm scared. I'm pretty sure you know.
Oh, it's gonna be good. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. We are all in this together.
Yes, we are.
We're gonna be fine.
We are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Huh?
Did you get some spices? Oh.
This is the way you greet voters.
I can't watch this again. It makes me want to vomit. Don Lemon puts out this tweet and says, this is the difference between Trump and Kamala. And then proceeds not to compare the two because he only shows a clip of Kamala, which, according to Laura Loomer, was a highly staged photo with political operatives in it, that being the young lady on the far right. And now Laura has gotten a few things wrong, and so I do approach everything with a degree of skepticism. The political operative nature of that video, I did not need someone to confirm it for me. Look at...
I'm scared. I'm pretty sure you know.
Oh, it's gonna be good. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. We are all in this together.
First of all, maybe if you're running for president in an era where you are currently the vice president, you don't want to show sobbing citizens sobbing and lamenting at the state of the world and America that you have brought on, vice president. We're all in this together. We sure as hell are not. Some of us are in it, and others are off on our yacht or on our Hawaiian bunker with our, I don't know, 50 years of food and entertainment, whatever Zuckerberg's up to. But no, Don Lemon wants to show the difference between Kamala and Trump, and then proceeds not to show Trump for the purposes of comparison. Then I had to get involved because that's what I do on the internet now. I sit there surfing, trying to point people out for the hypocrites and the scoundrels that they are. I said, typically, Don Lemon, when you say this is the difference between two things, you show the other thing to which you are comparing the first. And we could skip the rest of the video. But here's Trump, by the way, leaving the security of bulletproof glass. I'm not sure that this is a wise thing to do because someone in the audience at one of his rallies had a medical emergency and he went over to attend and hug her. But don't show us that, Don Lemon, you stinking, dirty, rotten scoundrel. Yeah. By the way, I know people can accuse Trump of staging this. This looks a little bit more authentic than a private location at a private restaurant or a business that apparently had political ties to the Democrats. And Trump goes over and hugs the lady who I guess had heat stroke. At least they got bodyguards who are taller than Trump this time. No 4.5-foot ladies guarding him. No. It's wonderful. All right, well, that's it. People, that's when you do a comparison, you show the things that you're comparing, and then we can decide which one is fake, phony as aspartame, and which one is the real Donald Trump. All right, before we get started, people, you will have noticed this stream contains a paid promotion because it does. And speaking of being a man, everybody, the world has gone soft, but Naked Organs is here to make sure you don't. These bison capsules pack everything you need to keep your testosterone in check. You're getting vitamin B12 to keep you energized, vitamin D for strength, Heme iron to stay solid, and CoQ10 to stay sharp. No preservatives, fillers, or synthetic additives, just pure bison organs in capsule form. And I can tell you from experience, they're a lot easier to take than bison organs when I got bison balls and tried to cook them, and they were not edible. These bison, by the way, they're not lounging around binge watching reality TV like your cousin. They're out in the wild throwing down with nature as though it owes them money. That's the kind of untamed primal power you're tapping into, raw nutrients keeping your testosterone at beast mode and where the sad rice cake says it should be. Tired of products loaded with junk? This is the real deal. Head to BeNaked.com. Use promo code VIVA for 15% off and start channeling bison strength. No wrestling required. And it's I mean, look, it's a supplement and it's a easy to swallow. No pun intended. and it's good stuff. Now, take care of your body, take care of your pocketbook in as much as humanly possible, and invest in gold. Look, I'm still trying to understand what Bitcoin is, and I've dabbled my toe in it now, and I own a little bit of Bitcoin, but gold. People, it's no secret that we live in very uncertain and volatile times. The dollar is collapsing and faith in our monetary systems are at an all-time low, while inflation is skyrocketing thanks to the current Biden-Harris administration. She's running against herself by this. She'll do much better than she did as vice president. No one has a crystal ball when it comes to the future, and the truth is that nobody really knows what's going to happen, but it's really important to protect yourself financially. I give myself insurance by investing in hard physical assets like gold and silver. Historically, gold and silver have been one of the safest investments, and it allows me to hedge my bets against runaway inflation. I urge you to take a closer look, protecting yourself and your investments as well. I personally trust the folks at Monetary Gold. They're legit. They'll take care of it for you. You can roll over your IRA into gold and silver. Just tell them I sent you. For a limited time, they're giving up to $5,000 in free gold and silver for qualified purchases. Sleep well at night knowing that you're protected. Give Monetary Gold a call now. 1-800-476-1303. 1-800-476-1303. And because everything comes in threes, 1-800-476-1303, or visit monetarygold.com. And just be forewarned, all risks have investment and there is no guarantee, but historically, gold has been good, and my goodness, crypto. But gold it's nice also to hold a little silver gold coin in your hand or play poker with silver dollars. Silver is a lot more affordable, so you can buy more of it and feel like Scrooge McDuck. And, it's good stuff. All right, links are in the description. And now, people, the man of the hour, the guest of the show, Matt Christiansen. I've been on the show a couple times, but it's been a long time, and he's been in the news. Not that people, they always say any publicity is good publicity, but I think some people would prefer certain types of to avoid their stress. I'm going to bring him in. We're going to talk about it because Matt's side of the story is the only one I have not yet heard. We're going to talk about that, but we're not only going to talk about that. So bring it in, Matt. Sir, how goes the battle?
I am well, man. Bison capsules and gold. These are
burn your body rock hard, and it is actual. It's a supplement of, like, the good stuff that you get from old meat without having to eat bison balls, which I tried.
By the way, I'm not a compensated spokesperson for your sponsors. I just thought those sound like excellent products for the way things are heading. I would like some bison organs and some precious metals. I could use those.
Matt, I'm thinking I got to hit up Monetary Gold to design a Viva Frei 1 ounce gold suppository, so that when things really hit the fan, you can hide your gold and it'll be easier to hide than if it's a coin, because that doesn't. Okay, but I shouldn't make too many of those jokes. Matt, hold on. So back it up one more time. I saw we talked about this briefly before we went live. We share a backdrop symbol, the Betsy Ross flag.
That's true. I guess that's the mark of an insurrectionist or something these days. The way things are going, I expect the hit pieces. It's kind of a gag on my show with Blonde and people who follow my material, people in my audience. It's like I'm always snubbed by the hit pieces. People get smear pieces written about them all the time. And even though I'm adjacent or sometimes even party to the controversy, I am overlooked. So when you say that I'm in the news, I am. But you'll even notice now with all this Tenet stuff, sometimes, like, there was a piece in the Daily Dot, they got all of us right there in front of a Russian flag, my face at the center. Even the first paragraph says, Tenet Media, an organization associated with commentators Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, Benny Johnson, and others. And so in the indictment, I'm whom? I'm commentator 6. I am last. It's just my dad said to me earlier, you're the Rodney Dangerfield of this entire situation. You can't get any respect.
Well, I forget who said it, but the person was saying, like, there's different types of celebrity. You can be rich and famous. You can be rich and not famous, as in, like, you can be rich and sort of under the radar. You can be famous and not rich, and you can be not famous and not rich. And he said the worst one was being famous and not filthy wealthy, because you get all the pitfalls that come along with being famous, but none of the benefit. So, and not to, there's sort of something of an analogy here, like this story is going wild, and Matt Christiansen's name is sort of like, it's not the footnote. It's just not the top 3. Even Lauren Southern is sort of getting left out to some extent. And sometimes I think CNN even confused Lauren Southern with Lauren Chen, in that they thought Lauren Southern was Lauren Chen's, like, stage name or something. It was in Lauren Southern's tweet on the matter that it's like they even thought they were the same people.
And I saw that because Lauren Southern just put out a statement. She's been quiet mostly about this, but she put out a tweet. And there were people in the replies. I mean, to be honest, I saw a few. So it's not to say it's widespread, but they exist, making accusations against her based on claims made in the indictment about Lauren Chen, believing Lauren Southern to be Lauren Chen. So whether that mistake was innocent or not from CNN, I don't know, but the mistake infects others.
Yeah, it does. And I'm trying to think of who that mistake would punish more. I think it would punish Lauren Chen more than Lauren Southern, because Lauren Southern already had something of a devious reputation. She had already been smeared a fair bit by the media. Now people are sort of discovering for the first time, for many at least, Lauren Chen. But Matt, before we even get into all of this, because I've been on your channel a couple of times, and I don't think you've been on mine, because I would have known these answers to these questions. Who are you? How old are you?
Yeah.
No, dude, I would remember this, because I don't know how old you are. I don't know. I should know where you're from. I think I have an idea, but
yeah,
just a 30,000 foot overview. We're not going to spend too much time delving into childhood, but I'm going to touch it a little bit, dabble into it.
Careful with that. You're going to touch
I know that
childhood.
That sounded really, really terrible.
Okay.
30,000 foot overview, but how old are you? Where are you from? How'd you get into what you're doing?
Oh man. Well, I'll try to be as brief as possible. I am 36, nearly 37. So I'm staring like, I guess, middle age, right down the barrel of that. Or maybe I am middle aged. I don't know, but I still consider myself young at heart, I guess. I live in Bozeman, Montana. I've been here for the last decade plus, since about 2012. I did a tour on the West Coast. I went to college in Portland, Oregon. I lived down in the Bay Area of California for a little while, in the East Bay, for a couple of years. That was as long as I could last. I could not stand it there. So I came back to Montana. I did go to high school, junior high in a different part of Montana. Prior to that, my entire extended family, my mom and my dad and my brother, we were all from Minnesota. We moved out from suburban Minneapolis around 98, 99. Can't remember the exact year. But that's my geographical biography. As far as how I got to talking to people on the internet, sometime around 2011, 2012, I used to play way too many video games. I played Call of Duty all the time. And my friends and I mean, we would play like nightly. And if you ever played old video games, or like multiplayer video games, the joy was not just the game. The joy was angry people on the other team yelling at you. And so I just started recording our interactions with people for fun. And it grew into kind of like a little niche Call of Duty YouTube channel. And then, like everything great on the internet, that got cracked down on. They made it harder to record that sort of chat, to have that sort of chat interaction. And as I mentioned, getting older, I realized at some point, like, okay, I am an adult man. Maybe getting called slurs on the internet is not my path to the future. But eventually I started talking politics and news and things I care about. I've always cared greatly about those things, although I used to be a good boy Democrat voter until sometime around 2015, when, in my view, the Democrats started betraying the most important principle that our country holds, that being free speech, celebrating things like shutting Donald Trump down by force. And me thinking, okay, well, I'm not really a Trump guy, but are we really the team that's like happy about sending a mob after his speech to shut it down? What's this about? And as many are aware, once you start asking questions about those fundamental principles, all of a sudden, a lot of things collapse. All of a sudden, a lot of mirages are broken. And I don't know that I've changed a lot about my core principles, other than my faith in government has been shattered. I used to believe in the government's ability to do things, to provide opportunity for people where maybe the private market doesn't. Now I believe they exist basically to lie and chase you down, which maybe has something to do with the current affairs. But that's about as quick of a roundup as I can give. Yeah.
Let me prong into two things. What did your parents do, and how many siblings do you have?
So I had one brother. I lost my brother in 2013, which is its own story. My brother was hit by IED in Afghanistan. He was a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne in the Army, and he was disabled. He was seriously wounded. I lost him to suicide in 2013. My brother and I lived together here in Bozeman for about half a year before that happened, and so that's been a huge part of my life. My parents now live here in Bozeman with me and my family. I neglected to mention I'm happily married. I've got 2 young boys myself. We had our one of our boys just turned 3 on Monday, a week ago, and we just had another boy in December. So we've got a growing family too. My mom worked in ad sales for a newspaper. My dad did freelance illustration. He did drawings and stuff for books and advertisements and things like that. They're both retired now, so they're playing the grandma and grandpa game. And I work upstairs at their place, so I've got my own kind of. It's not a man cave because it's a man upstairs that I work out of. It's great to have my parents close by and to have their help.
Yeah, that is an entire that's an entire element of a defining element of a life. How old was your brother? Older than you or younger than you?
No, my brother was younger than me, and so when we lost him, he was 23. He was born in 1990. We lost him in 2013. And obviously that was a defining moment in my life. I'm such a different person now after that. Like, one of the interesting things about what's going on now, MSNBC talked about how I'm one of these commentators, and they dug up and Matt Christiansen, the sixth name, and the image they used of me, I didn't recognize. I'm like, what is this photo that Joy Reid put up on the screen of me? Because I don't know when it's from. It's clearly old, and also I'm much heavier, which is true about that time, 2013. I lost probably it wasn't drastic, but maybe like 30 pounds, something like that. So I used to look a lot thicker. So this old photo of me is just like, who is that guy? And then I'm informed by my audience last night, to find a photo of you, instead of just grabbing one of the many abundant images in the million videos that you guys are talking about, they searched my name, found an old article about the loss of my brother in which I'm photographed, and they grabbed that. I'm not saying they can't use that photo or something. I just thought it was weird to use like a decade-old photo of me that looks hardly recognizable to the person I am now. But that loss obviously has provided a lot of purpose in my life. It led me to, I think, clean up a lot of things about my life, to be a lot more disciplined, to live the sort of life that my brother would be proud of. And my brother and I always got along. I think we had a little bit different perspective. He wasn't super political, but things like gun rights, we definitely would have disagreed on, and other things that I would have been a good boy progressive Democrat voter on. And if you've ever lost someone, whether they die or whether you've just lost touch with them, and you remember you used to disagree or argue about things way back when, and then you've gone through, say, a decade of life experience, and you realize he was right about everything. Every day I wish I could have that conversation with him again. And I hope that one day we'll be able to, because I would just love to hang out with him for a little bit and say, you were right about A, you were right about B, you were right about C. Now I'll still hang on to like D, E, and F. I didn't lose everything, but so maybe he wasn't right about everything.
Well, now I got to ask, what if you have an example of a D, E, or F that you think you haven't come around, because that would presuppose which side is right. It's interesting. Which you've come around on gun rights, I presume. Well, gun rights.
Yeah.
Abortion would be the other big one. I would presume people shift over a long.
Yeah, although that wasn't. That's for me personally, but that really didn't have much to do with my brother. But yeah, that's something my perspective has definitely changed on.
And death penalty typically is the other big one.
Ooh, the death penalty I wrestle with, and to summarize, are there crimes for which death is a justified penalty? I believe absolutely yes. On the other side, do I trust the state with the enforcement authority of that? And my answer to that is no. So I lean no on the death penalty, but then a big trial comes up and it's like, okay, that guy did a heinous crime, and it's not just beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, there's video of him doing it.
The Kenosha driver guy, I forget his name. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that might be. You mean the car? It was the car who committed.
Yeah, the crowd that got in the way of a car that was driven.
Yeah.
No, it's that was my revelation as well. As certain crimes, death penalty warranted. Having seen now that you can't rely on the government for fairness in the judicial system, and you can't even rely on a jury. You certainly cannot rely on a jury. You'll get in practice, it will be abused in as much as we've seen everything else abused. Religious now. I mean, were you brought up religious? Is that one of the ones where you become more religious over time?
Well, this is very timely. My mom's Catholic. My dad's kind of always been just sort of agnostic, I would say, like not a hater, not a believer, just sort of agnostic.
But Catholic of origin.
No, my dad wasn't. My dad's family was Baptist.
Okay.
And I was not. I was baptized Catholic, but I've never been seriously a believer until really now. but it's not so sudden. I have always a big thing to me is the concept of objective morality. Is there a set of rules to this world that exist before us, that exist independent of us? Is there right and wrong outside of us? Or do we just make up the rules as we go? And I don't believe we just make up the rules as we go. I believe in that natural law concept, that there is such a there is a set of rules. We can deduce those from observing the natural world. We call that the God concept. I believe this to be true. In fact, I know it to be true. And so through that, in the search for that God concept, I've been on this journey for the last couple of years. I started doing a Bible study with a very scripturally educated man in my audience, and we do that every week on Fridays, and we've done that for the last couple of years. And so I've always been, the joke is I'm Matt almost Christiansen because I'm adjacent. I'm a fellow traveler. In fact, I do this Bible study, and for the most part, everybody's very gracious and patient, but there are people banging the table like, what are you doing? You know,
how much study until you finally submit? I'm not
finish up until you get off the pot. But to finish that piece of the story, this week, because of the things that have happened, and I can get more into that if you'd like, but I believe that a very clear fork has presented itself in my life, and the path I'm supposed to take is very clearly illuminated. And I talked about this on our stream last night, and I talked about it in my Bible study on Friday. As of Friday, I have made the decision to be a follower of Jesus Christ. I have embraced the term Christian, and so I don't think that that's necessarily it's not a radical change in my philosophy or view of the world. And obviously there are steps about which church I'm going to go to and all the specifics of that, but I've committed myself to the most fundamental step. And that's because I believe that the path has revealed itself to me. The reason I've shied away from that title is the same reason I shy away from titles in politics or anything else. When you say I am a this, I am a constitutional conservative, I am a libertarian, I am a whatever, that title carries with it, number one, a set of assumptions about what you believe. They might be true or not. But number two, an obligation on you to explain why you believe those things, why you hold that title. And with the title Christian, I have never felt qualified to explain why I would hold that title until now. And I understand why I hold that title now, and it's because of the path that has revealed itself to me. And I'm going to commit myself to continuing down that path.
Well, I'm obviously going to ask you the path. Now, I for a second, when you started off, I thought you were going to say, witnessing the miracle that I believe we all witnessed with Trump escaping that bullet and the world escaping the hell that it would be in right now. What did happen? I mean, if you can explain it.
Well, this is going to sound silly, but I do believe that whatever path gets, and not just me, everybody I talk to, I mean, the path that gets you there is the correct path. When the path reveals itself to you and you take it, whether it sounds silly or not, it's the path that you belong on. So with everything going on with the tenant stuff, and I've been, for all the specifics on that, by the way, I should mention, if people want, I should have sent this to you too. I forgot. I think I mentioned this yesterday and forgot to send it to you. I have published on my website a full public statement that details everything I know and all the information I have on the tenant stuff, because I want to be as transparent as possible. In response to this tenant controversy, my email inbox has been a combination of things. Now, thankfully, for the most part, it is predominantly people who are understanding, supportive, encouraging. And for the most part, those are people of explicit faith. And they're not just saying, hey, tough time, I think you'll get through it. I've liked your work. I appreciate that too, of course. But almost universally, these messages are, I'm going to pray for you. I'm God bless you, that kind of stuff. Not just encouragement, but a godly view in that encouragement and a godly faith in that encouragement. On the other side, there are emails from who I believe to be actual demon people who have obviously never met me, don't know anything about me, people who have decided based on some news report that they saw, they got the NPC chip put into their brain, and they have to scour the internet to figure out who I am and how to message me, which isn't that hard. In fairness, you go to my website, you can message me. But I mean people wishing the most horrible things upon me and my family, as it happens on the internet. I mean people like digging up the details of my brother's story to throw it at me as though it hurts me or something like that. But my experience with these people, as you know, you're in the public eye and you talk politics and news, so I assume you get a fair amount of this yourself. People messaging you, I disagree with you about this, or you got that wrong, or whatever dispute they may have with you. And if you're like me, oftentimes when someone comes at me to tell me I'm wrong and I think they're wrong, I can hardly resist. I have to no, you're wrong, type up some argument to tell them why they're wrong. In this case with these demon people, my experience was totally different. My experience was not like an anger or an urge for revenge. Instead, I was compelled to the same message that was sent to me in my inbox, which is, I will pray for you. And that was just the gut level reaction. I will pray for you because the sort of person who's doing this to someone they don't know because of political programming, that's a lost soul. That's a suffering soul. That's a tortured person, a very lost person. And so when I'm compelled to say that I will pray for you, it's not like a sarcastic or underhanded thing. I mean it. Like that person is lacking purpose. That person is lacking joy. That person is lacking something in his or her life that needs to be filled. I do hope that person's suffering is eased. And when I say I will pray for you, or I'm compelled to say it, I'm appealing to whom and to what? And I had this realization thinking about that. It's like, whether I acknowledge it or say it openly in public or not, I've been on a path. Who am I following? Who have I been following this entire time? Who do I follow to get out of this situation? Because obviously I have a thing or two to think about what's next for me after all of this. And I'll rebuild. And thanks to the people in my audience, I have faith that I will. But it was a very clear choice that presented itself to me. Here's your path. Here's your fork. You got the illuminated fork of the godly people, or the path of the demon people. And here's what's interesting about the path of the demon people. And thank you for letting me go on and on about this. I appreciate it.
I think you're converting me in real time, Matt. So
Okay.
keep going.
The demon. Okay. I mentioned that like when I just have my wife always says, let me handle your emails, because when I get an email I don't like, it just sticks in my brain. And so even the demon people, I know I'm not supposed to be distracted by, I'm compelled to respond. And I have a form on my website that, contact Matt, type in your name, type in your email address, and send your message. And half the time, messages I get are clearly fake email addresses that you can't respond to. In this case, it would be like, you love Putin at ilovekamala.com. That's not real. In this case, the emails looked real. They looked authentic. They're at Gmail, they're at Yahoo, they're at whatever. And so the temptation gets the best of me. I start responding to these emails. I will pray for you. And they start bouncing. They're not real email addresses, even though they look real. I will pray for you. That goes to nobody. I will pray for you. That goes to nobody. To me, it is a sign that I am not to be distracted by these demon people. I am not to engage with these demon people. I should pray for them, but to allow my attention to be taken in by the demon people at the expense of the true path, of the godly people who are encouraging me and believe in me to build something better on the other side, would be it would be foolishness. It would be wrong. And so even that's why I believe this revelation was real, because the fact that I'm tempted to the demon side, and there was some unexplainable intervening force that's like, no, that's not the way. You know the way, take the way. And I can't do anything but I must take the way. And that's why I decided to.
It's a very compelling life experience that will make its way into your book when you write one, Matt. I mean, that's it's not just eloquent, but it's something that you could not explain, or you could not make up unless you lived through it. Well, I mean, I guess it's going to be a good, not segue, but backing up into how this all came about. So you've been, first of all, you start off doing gaming. I presume that there might be some videos of you back in the gaming days.
They're still on my channel. Yeah.
You're not pulling like PewDiePie cussing, or is there stuff out there that might? I mean, nobody brought that up to smear you now, so I presume it's not that bad.
Oh no, there's a lot of vulgarity. In fact, YouTube has gone back and retroactively age restricted a lot of them. I still get emails to this day. Hey, that video you made in 2013, someone said the F slur in it, so yeah, it's age restricted, or you're punished. Or mostly it wasn't me and my friends going after other people. The whole gag was like, we beat them in the game and they rage at us, and their rage is funny. So it's mostly people saying bad words to us. was the bit.
First of all, what did you study in university?
Political science.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's an undergrad. Nobody gets a job in political science. What did you do after you got out of university?
Oh man. Well, this is a little bit lesser known. I won't say who, because I don't want to be associated with this employer. But I actually worked a couple years, not a couple years, 5 or 6 years for a labor union, a hospital workers labor union. I did data analytics for the purpose of their labor organizing. So I wasn't directly involved in labor organizing, but to the extent that labor organizing might require analysis of X, Y, and Z in pursuit of its ends, that was kind of my job. So there was a lot of like healthcare claims data analysis. And I learned a few, I mean, I don't know, it was from a technical perspective, it was kind of interesting. But as my political view was shifting, and of course we know the political alignment of labor unions generally, there was that problem where I no longer believed, I would say, in the core mission of the work. And if you're on the inside of a labor union, even though I don't have a problem with private sector labor unions, and that's what this was, public sector is its own thing, I think. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. It's just there are when you see from the inside with labor unions that maybe it's not the most efficient operation. Let's put it that way. That you know that you're working with member dues. And I'm not saying that this was entirely wasteful. I'm just saying, like, you notice inefficiency, and it's hard to justify that because you know that all of this is being done on the backs of working people who are signing up to support your operation in pursuit of better working conditions and pay for them. And it's like, well, why are people staying at this really nice hotel, and why are people traveling all over, and just stuff like that gets harder and harder to accept.
It's analogous to government. I mean, they need it. They're doing the hard work. They need the first class travel. They need all of the stuff because they represent the people. And so
exactly.
So that's amazing. And now, as long as I've known you, and it's been a long time, you've been doing political commentary.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, how did it start, and then how did it end up with Tenet? And I haven't seen your full statement yet, but we'll get to the essence of it. And I'll just correct, because I think we might have said something wrong last night, that you did not. I don't know if you made a statement that you're not going to talk to the FBI, but you are not.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not talking to the FBI. I don't know where that came from, but
okay, good, smart man. And I'm starting to think maybe Tim was trolling when he said he's going to sit down with the FBI. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so tell us. I mean, you had your channel, and then how does it work in with Tenet Media? And then what happens with the shit hits the fan?
To close on that last job, not only were the politics of it a problem, the ethics of it a potential problem, but my manager, who I really enjoyed, decided he was going to go back to school and do something else. And so my working relationship changed too. Now, you could criticize me and say, it was only when your working relationship changed that you left, not when you were spotting ethical problems, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, kind of. Give me a break. I was like 25, I was living in a studio apartment in California. Actually, they did let me come back and work here for a while, which was nice. But anyway, so at that point, I had this kind of stupid YouTube channel on the side that was video game content. I was starting to talk politics, and the part of the problem there too is if you want a public persona, like now I'm talking with my face. I used to just be on voice on video games. Now I'm talking with my face. So it's like if the employer ever finds that, there's a problem, but they never did, as far as I'm aware. I get a new boss who just I don't work well with. If you've ever worked with someone who you can tell they think you're an idiot, it doesn't work. And I could tell this guy thought I'm an idiot. Now, maybe in my capacity at that job, I was an idiot. Maybe I'm an idiot in general in life. I don't know. But again, speaking of following signs as they present themselves to you in life, even when it feels irrational to follow the path, this is very clear to me. Like, this job isn't for you. This job might be comfortable. You might have decent benefits, but this is not the way. And so when I was under the management of the new person, I called my mom. I said, I know this doesn't make any sense, but I'm quitting my job and I'm going to try YouTubing. And my mom, because she's a very good mom who supports her son no matter what, said, okay, all right, take what you've saved and try YouTubing. And lo and behold, just by my shoestrings, I was able to build something that was sustainable, something that I could provide for myself on. And I'm very thankful for that. And I'm very thankful for my audience for that. And so that carries us through to last year. There's a bunch of intervening factors throughout that, as you're well aware, all the demonetization and all the just censorship efforts have always been difficult to manage. But that brings us to last summer, and I've been friendly with Lauren Chen for quite some time, of course, formerly Roaming Millennial. And she's co-hosted on my show with Blonde before. We're not, in constant contact, but we're friendly, and I trust her, and I like her, and I think she does a good job. And she comes to me last June and says, "Hey, I'm doing a new media startup, and I would like to know what it would take for the right to host some of your content exclusively. Like, first of all, what would you be willing to provide? And second of all, what would the deal look like?" So I thought, well, that's cool. I mean, this seems like a great opportunity for you. I'm looking for security. I'm looking for I'm staring at 2024, and I know what the censorship efforts are going to be. So teammates are cool. This sounds good. So we go back and forth for about a month. We agree in July, and it takes them a few months to get up and running. But starting in November of last year, Tenet Media launches.
November 2023.
Yeah.
And I know Lauren as well. I mean, I've known her back from Montreal, from the People's Party of Canada, and I'll say this without any apology being issued. I think she's a good person, and I trust her. And until I believe that she's done something nefarious, I'm going to need to see some concrete evidence above and beyond one paragraph that says she hid some information that they never even proved that she had. What does she describe Tenet Media as? Because I knew that she left. I think she got out of Canada before I did. She was trying to sell me on Tennessee. This was not sell me. She was describing that Tennessee is one of the most livable places in America. I found the crime rate to be too high, so I went with Florida.
Yeah.
But what was she doing before Tenet, and how did she explain the Tenet Media operation even coming to be?
I would leave. I'm going to leave her current, or like her own personal stuff to her. I hope she gets to speak soon. I need to
needs
hear
her phone back, I guess.
I
don't
need to hear her side of the story. But so as far as like what she was doing prior and stuff, I know, she was with the Blaze. She had an existing contract with the Blaze, even at the time that she was doing the Tenet stuff. But out of respect to her, and just to be careful not to misspeak, I'm going to leave that to her. And as far as our conversations, just in general, it's kind of the way I described there. I've got a new company that I'm looking to launch. For people who want to be critical of me or skeptical of me, and say, well, why didn't you ask more questions? Why didn't you go after her funding? Why didn't you do this and that? I'll just say very generally, it was represented to me that she had secured funding from an interested investor who believed in her. Did she say it's this guy with this thing who did? No, that was not a part of our conversation. And if you want to be critical of me for not aggressively vetting that, that's fair. And I think that the next time that an opportunity presents itself to me, if it does, I probably will do that. But in this instance, it was a trusted friend who I wanted to have a mutually beneficial agreement with. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt that she had her business affairs taken care of. So we really didn't talk about like that. If you know me, I'm not, I don't like poking my nose in other people's business. Let's put it that way.
Well, just also like people ask that question. I think they might be presuming that you might be on, and I don't care for the numbers, and I'm not asking for the numbers, indiscreetly, or discreetly, I should say. People might be operating on the basis that you're pulling the Tim Rubin, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool numbers and all of this. But set that aside. Let's just say you're getting paid a commensurate, fair amount. It's so I think illogical for people to say, well, you're contracting with a company, now go find out where that company gets its money to pay you. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I've
never done that.
Rumble's a publicly traded company, so I presume there's some verifications there, but like, I'm not going to say like, hey guys, who's paying you? I want to make sure I'm not getting any Carlos Slim, whatever money. That's not how things work. When I used to work at a law firm, I didn't say like, I knew where the money came from. It's like, I didn't go say, hey, is this coming from here? I can only take money from you that's coming from clean sources, even if they're not illegal. So
yeah,
such a presumptuous to create that obligation on someone is wrong. To say they're paying you $1 million an episode, what did you think they were doing? That's a separate question.
But I want to clarify, and thank you for bringing that up. And this is part of the reason that I put that statement out there, even though I know that it violates my contract to do so, and I haven't been able to. Let's put it this way. I'm granting a little contractual flexibility to Lauren and Liam, considering their circumstances. So it is my hope and trust that they will do the same thing for me. But it is a violation of my contract to release the financial terms of it. I decided to do that for exactly the reason that you're describing, because when people wonder why I wasn't more critical or skeptical, it's because when Lauren came to me, just so everyone in your audience understands, Lauren didn't come to me and say, "Hey, Matt, I've got a big bag of money. Would you like $10 million?" That is not what happened. What happened is she said, what would an exclusivity agreement look like? And I know my numbers because I run my business myself. And so I know the general market value of my material. And so I gave her some numbers that are aligned with that market value. And what I presented to her was, how much are you interested in hosting? Would you like one video per week? Would you like two? Would you like a stream? I can go lower, I can go higher. We agreed on 2 videos and a stream. And without getting into all the specific numbers, if you're curious, you can go look at the statement on my website. It's mattchristiansenmedia.com. It's linked right there on the homepage. But I'll put it this way. My compensation breaks down to about $100 per hour in terms of labor. It breaks down to about $1,100 per video production, which is right around what I would expect to earn with my material on its own. The reason I wasn't more skeptical is because I went to her with a market value number that she agreed to. There was nothing strange about that. She didn't come to me with a bag of money that I would never expect. And I probably would have questions if she said, "How about you come over here for $5 million?" When I know, even though I think there are intervening factors on the market value of my material based on some censorship efforts. Okay, that aside, I know my material is not worth $5 million. So I would have questions about that. In this case, I said, here's about what it's worth. Is that workable for you? And she said, "Yeah, it is." And I'm not trying to rip off my friend. Like, I want an arrangement that is suitable for her and beneficial for me. She's my friend. I want her business to succeed because she's excited about it. This is not like a Matt trying to grab the bag thing. If I believe in the business, I want her to have as much resources as she can to succeed while making sure that my family is still taken care of. And that's exactly what we agreed to.
And you did it for about a year?
Started in November, and the last video I posted was right at the end of August. So 10 months worth of work. And for people that are so skeptical about the financial arrangement, I say this just as a matter of fact, not as a matter of blame. Because of the circumstances, I wasn't even paid for the material I made in August. So I worked all of August for free. And maybe that'll be resolved later. I'm definitely don't intend, unless you can show me that, like, Lauren and Liam, if there's a message that says, "Haha, we got Matt, he's been duped." Okay, then maybe I'm interested in being a little bit more aggressive. But as I explained last night on my stream, and I suspected when I streamed on Wednesday night, say whatever you want about Lauren and Liam. I do believe, based on the indictment, to the extent it's true, and there's some evidence that perhaps there were red flags that they missed and they didn't do a good job of investigating or doing due diligence on. I don't believe for a second, not just based on my own experience, but based on my knowledge from other people on the inside with direct knowledge. And I'll tell you right now, I know people closely involved in the negotiations with everybody. Universally, the people I know on the inside do not believe that Liam and Lauren were tricked. That's not to say that the investor is who he said he was. I don't know who the investor was. Was he actually wealthy Frenchman based in Paris, Edward Gregorian? Actually, there are people I know who believe he's real. So maybe that information drops. Was he a Russian op? Was he a U.S. asset? I don't know. But I'm telling you that everybody I know on the inside believes that Lauren and Liam were sincere in their belief that Edward Gregorian, the French investor based in Paris, was a real guy. You can criticize Liam and Lauren for believing something that was false or not investigating thoroughly. I do not believe for a second they came to me or anybody else intentionally deceiving us, as is alleged was done to 2 commentators, not me, in the indictment.
And you had no idea. I had on Taylor Hanson, who I thought the name sounded familiar. There is a famous singer named Taylor Hanson. That's not the Taylor. Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go pull up the image again.
Not that famous. I don't know who that is.
Isn't he one of the Hanson brothers?
Oh, is that? I don't know. I don't know the names of the Hanson.
Yeah, you just know that one of them is Hanson.
Yeah.
You had no idea the company was being investigated until
and this is the thing. Okay, so I don't want to get too tinfoily on your behalf.
No, do it, man.
my wife is terrified. Like, you can't blame the feds because they're going to kick down our door. I don't know. Look, okay. I received an email, as did, as far as I understand, I think all the contractors did. Received an email from the FBI on Wednesday night that said, "We believe you're a victim of a crime. Would
This
you like
this Wednesday, like 4 days ago, last
after the
weekend.
indictment was unsealed?"
Okay.
And maybe to be as fair as possible, I'm not necessarily familiar with the process for federal law enforcement investigations. This might be an area that you have more knowledge than I do. Tell me if you do. But it does seem very odd to me that you're telling me you have believed over the course of an investigation that I am a victim of a crime, and you never came to ask me for information about that supposed crime until after the indictment was unsealed. Don't you think it would have been beneficial to go to that grand jury with perhaps information that I have about this crime? Why, if you believe I've been victimized for months, why did you, FBI, allow that to happen? Why didn't you intervene on my behalf? Maybe someone who understands their process can explain that to me more, but I have to be extremely suspicious of that.
I could not explain it from any experience that I've ever had because I never did criminal law and even less American criminal law. But I've got my suspicions as well. It doesn't make any sense in that they've been investigating this company. They've been in Discord servers. They've gotten into all the DMs and the messages. So I guess they don't need anything more from you because they already have all of it. I want to know when that indictment was dated because from what I can see, at least from the copy that's on the internet, there's no date. There's no clear date on it. So I don't know when
Yeah.
it was filed, when they started this investigation, and how the hell they got into the Discord, how they investigated this company with nobody knowing on the inside of the company, except perhaps the people who were in on it. And I say in on it as in had infiltrated and were acting as agents of the state for the purposes of infiltrating Tenet and maybe dropping buckets of cash on.
Well, that's where I say the tinfoil stuff. Because I have to just analyze incentives here. If I take the story as told, that if I believe what the Justice Department, the feds are saying, we have Russian agents operating on behalf of the Kremlin because RT has effectively been banned in the West. And so they need to have covert ways of getting influence into the West. And that's what this whole op was, according to the feds. Okay, the problem is, though, that universally, all of the content creators, myself included, and I should have mentioned this when I talked about my negotiations with Lauren, chief among my concerns was not just like, it was not the finances and it was not security for my family. The point is telling me what to say, like my words themselves are not for sale. So do you want editorial control? Because you're not going to get that. No, we just like your product. We think that our business would benefit from your product. You say what you want. We just want the right to host it. Great, because I'm not going to be told what to say. Universally, all 6 of us got that. No, there's no evidence that with the one exception that one time they suggested someone talk about the Moscow terror attack, and I don't think it ever even happened. There's no evidence of direction of any of our product. So if there's Russian agents seeking to spend $10 million to exert their influence,
It makes no sense. I mean, bottom line, it makes no sense.
There was no influence achieved other than they're saying, well, they were cutting clips. Like, yes, they cut up clips of Morning Joe and posted them on Twitter. I'm sure that's a big Russian propaganda op.
No, but I can steelman it because what they'll say is they picked people who were already putting out messaging that was consistent with Kremlin messaging and incentivized them to keep doing it, which sort of suggests that on the flip side, YouTube AI are censoring and demonetizing and thus deterring content that is anti-Biden.
Number one, you're expecting me to believe that the Russians are interested in paying millions of dollars for content that would already happen if they didn't do anything. And number two, Tenet, I think everybody's aware. Like, would I have loved for it to blow up and be the most successful thing ever? Yeah, of course. It was not like pulling insane numbers. We're talking about like videos with 10,000 views, things like these are not amazing numbers.
Well, that's the double-edged sword, though. That's where people say for the views, it could never have been monetarily commensurate. The question that I had in this, and what my understanding is that some of call them the bigger names, and that's not to be mean. Were not exclusive. So I say when you're counting the numbers, you sort of have to count across all platforms where the content was created originally and being licensed, and not just on Tenet Media.
Yeah, I mean,
how many were exclusive to Tenet versus licensing out their own content to Tenet?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. You'd have to talk to everybody else about their contractual specifics. I can tell you that the stuff I was posting over there was exclusive. And then I had my own, I still have the Matt and Blonde show, which was never part of this. And I didn't want it to be because I like to keep eggs in different baskets, even though like I wanted this to succeed. It's a startup. I know startups can fail at any time, so I'm not going to put everything I have into it. I retained my home, and obviously that paid off. But in a case like mine, obviously I wish that Tenet blew up and that I had achieved a bunch more exposure through that. But you could make an argument that the Russians actually, at least in my case, they paid money for fewer views. I actually was receiving more views on my original channel, and now I'll go back to it. So we'll see if that sustains. I don't know, but these are videos I will tell you with certainty I would have made 100% exactly the same, but for the Tenet branding. If I was never approached by Lauren in the first place, they're videos that would be on my channel instead. So you're telling me I'm supposed to believe that Russian agents paid a bunch of money for videos that I would have made anyway that probably received fewer views through this scheme than they would have on my own channel. Again, analyzing incentives, what does that achieve versus what is actually achieved here? This is why I say if I don't believe Lauren and Liam were tricked, if I believe they were sincere in their belief, even if it was a false belief, that their investor was real, who tricked them and why? And I have to look at what was achieved here. What was achieved is funneling a bunch of money through a young, impressionable, if naive, but starry-eyed and hopeful about their business couple, Lauren and Liam. Like someone approaches them and says, "We think you're very talented. We think you could build the next big thing. We've got a little bit of money, and we would like to work with you to build it." And they think, "Wow, someone has faith in my material. This is great. I could build the next thing. I could make the next big media empire." What do they do with that money? They go around collecting a bunch of us. And I will say, I'm not naming names, but I do know there were efforts to secure other names still ongoing. So the scooping was still happening to bring additional people on. Okay, what do you do? What if you're someone who wants to sow the Russia narrative? Because you speak about the timing of all of this, like, yeah, when was that indictment actually? When was all that written? When did that come to be? How long has this investigation been going on?
How long? I think it's been going on since day one. And
yeah.
After I had Taylor Hansen on, who explained to me that he was already deemed a domestic terrorist for his journalism of January 6th. I think this was, they were sitting biding their time, and this was a day one. We're going to do this to this entity because it's already got public enemy number one employed.
And if you believe it was day one, at least adjacent is the concept that how do they know day one? How were they tipped off day one? Is it because there was some sort of U.S. federal government interaction in this from the first place? Now, I understand, again, this is tinfoil speculation. This is not, I'm not representing the opinions of Viva. I'm, feds, you can come
I don't care. You can go crazy, man. I think I believe exponentially more bizarre stuff than you.
Let's say that there's a U.S. government interest in discrediting, not me specifically. I don't have delusions about my own influence, but just like dissident voices on the internet that you don't otherwise have control of. What do you do to discredit them? You find someone, you use someone like Lauren to be a honeypot. You honeypot the honeypot. You go to Lauren and you set the trap. Say, here's a bunch of money. You're going to build a great big business. Now go round up your friends, sign them to contracts because we're going to build the next big thing. She goes and does that, not because she's doing their bidding, but because she believes someone believes in her. So she goes and she talks to her friends and says, "I got this great opportunity. I'd love for you to be a part of it." And we're like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool. All right, here's my signature." You let them make the material for a little while, as you're perhaps alluding to. So you set up you establish this. And then what do you do come September? Oh, look, the whole thing was a Russian op. They're nothing but Russian stooges. They're nothing but Russian agents. And what does that achieve? Well, not just for us six. Anything we say, like go look at the replies to Tim Pool or Benny Johnson or Dave Rubin, a Russian agent, Putin stooge. Anything they say now is presumably false, at least by a large percentage of people, or the NPCs, because they are supposedly outed as Russian agents, even though the indictment itself doesn't allege that we knew, because it can't prove that we knew, because there's not a shred of evidence that we knew. And not only does it discredit us, again, this is not just about me or the other 5 on the project. Anybody associated, like you for interviewing me now, the same NPC bot people are going to be like, "Oh, Russian agent, Russian stooge, can't trust that guy." You just create this doubt about this entire arena of lesser controlled dissident voices on the internet at a time when you need it, 2 months before the election. I don't want to be so cynical about my own government, but how can you not be?
There-
That's where it all aligns. It doesn't align with Russian agents exerting influence that doesn't exist.
there is no other way to see it. And even if that were on a standalone basis, that's how I would see it. But then you view this in conjunction with, like someone says here, January 6th. Sorry, this is the FISA wiretap. You view this with 2016, how they started with the Carter Page spying on him so they can, have a broader political plan. When you look at the cui bono, who benefits from all of this, it's clear as day, and it doesn't make sense the other way. And as if that's as you say, it's like Russian influence is letting commentators who had otherwise big platforms on their own produce the same type of content that they would have otherwise produced on their own platforms. It makes no sense. And so you find out about this when you got the email from the FBI after the indictment dropped. Did you see the indictment first? I mean, I presume you saw the indictment, then got the email.
If you talk to Taylor, maybe he told you, because I had the exact same experience. I've spoken with Taylor too. We've compared notes a little bit, and I think our view and our experience with it generally lines up. But he may have told you, a whole bunch of reporters. Speaking of revelations in your inbox, I did a Wednesday night stream on Tenet, so usually I'm doing prep in the day before. So sometime early afternoon on Wednesday, and I had already kind of organized the topics for what I was going to talk about that night, and so I've got a whole show planned. And then NBC, New York Times, Washington Post. I'm like, what do you mean? What? I at that point I had no concept of what they were even talking about, and then I clicked the link, and it's like, indicted. But in the indictment, it's not alleging wrongdoing, or it's not a charge against Lauren Liam or the company. So all of the identities they have placeholders. It's founder 1 and 2 and company A or whatever. So I'm like,
totally anonymous, like a Tennessee company with right. Yeah. It was so.
So I'm actually unclear when I received these things, what this is talking about, what it's alleging, and it takes me like an hour or two. I mean, obviously I can piece it together, like, okay, they're accusing our company of some sort of like malfeasance or foreign influence, but piecing together, like, what exactly are they alleging here? That took quite a while. And so again, the fact that, and it's my understanding that Lauren Liam learned the same way. In fact, they got raided by the FBI upon this indictment being unsealed. So if Lauren and Liam had any whiff of this, I just don't think they did. I don't think they had any. Not only do I not believe they were lying about the identity of their investor, I don't believe they had any knowledge of this investigation. I don't believe they hung us all out to dry in that way. And in fact, I bet they're sitting somewhere right now feeling horrible that all of their friends have been screwed over in this, and they're not free, for whatever their circumstances are, to come talk to us and just help us figure out what's going on. The whole situation just sucks.
No, it's terrible. The guy's name, the persona, allegedly Gregorian. What was his first name again?
Edward, something like that.
Now I looked. There happens to be a guy named Edward Gregorian who's an associate at a New York Lantham and Watkins. He must be getting a lot of.
He's like the other Eric Charmella, man. This really sucks.
And so, I mean, look, how does it impact you? I know you have your issues with YouTube, because I've noticed, but a lot of people maybe presumptuously or reflexively say, oh, things aren't performing well, it must be YouTube censoring me. I happen to think when it comes to certain level of quality content, and you're certainly there, that you have to be in the naughty books of YouTube.
I couldn't tell you for sure. Frankly, I had a nice growth trajectory through about 2019, when then they started the trusted news sources thing at YouTube. First it was Adpocalypse, then it was that. And if you go look at like my channel performance, it's a nice upward trajectory until just plateau. And indeed, it's actually kind of down, like a very slow trickle. And I think that's mostly just because of YouTube cleaning out old accounts, and like, just see like steps down sometimes. So I actually don't really monitor that stuff, because I hate to get lost in numbers. Like, I don't try to gauge what I say or my satisfaction with my own material based on like how many subscribers did it earn, how many views did it get, how many likes did it get. That's a mind game, and it leads to dissatisfaction. So I don't follow it super closely, just for my own psychological health. As long as I'm able to sustain talking about what I want to and taking care of my family, I take that as good enough. But I think you're right. Like, I don't feel entitled to anyone's view or listen. I have to work hard, and I have to provide the sort of material that earns eyes and ears and sustains them. So none of this is to excuse myself of that obligation. And now I'm more motivated to work as hard as I can than ever. So I will be. But I will tell you that given that the nature of the content hasn't changed, there's no way you go from healthy upward trajectory to just nope. Now everyone hates you. Now everyone's bored with you.
Have you ever gotten on the chat with the YouTube chat and asked them if your channel has been flagged for whatever the reason?
I didn't know. I have been on there for various reasons, but I've never asked them that. I didn't know that you could ask them that.
They're bots. I mean, and then you can record the you ask for the transcript. It's an amazing thing. I've noticed it a bit, but I've been changing the format. Like there's no question when you end early and go over to Rumble, it's going to negatively impact how the channel is fed and how people view it. And by and large, if you're building a bigger audience on Rumble, you can sort of do the math in your own head. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, even before Rumble, every time YouTube demonetized a video of mine, it's like it made me make 2 more videos that would remain monetized to make up for the screw job. It didn't deter or discourage. But it's clear, depending on what you're talking about and how you're talking about it, they might not like it.
And I'm just over the YouTube game. Thank God for Rumble and some of the other options. And Rumble has been chief among them. Like for the stream that we do on Sunday night, and of course now the rest of my content's going to be over there. Like Rumble has become a pretty reliable, safe home, not just where your content can be hosted for people to view it, but with good monetization options, good ways for people to support you. I've been really impressed. People have always people have their complaints with Rumble, or it's not this or it's not that, or they don't have this UI feature that YouTube does. When you got to rebuild the entire city, it takes a minute. And I if not for Rumble, I'd be a lot more worried about my future, because now I'm just one YouTube axe swing away from being destroyed, and maybe that axe swing is coming. I don't know.
I don't want to jinx it, and I don't want to summon the demon. Tyler's channel shut down. For what the hell reason? Who knows? Lauren channels, and I try to raise a bit of a stink, but it's like it's not. You're not even fighting a human at this point. It's like banging your head against an inanimate object, because I think it's just algorithmic. There is no one there that's going to answer for it, and so it's done. And tough shit. I have my Viva Family channel. It was demonetized, but not for any political reason, because of an algorithmic misunderstanding where I license out some of that content, viral videos, to another platform. And they think I'm reusing that content. And so they say, oh, no longer monetized because you're reusing other people's content. I'm like, no, it's
you
the
get
other
your
way.
own copyright dings. You've really made it in the business world.
Well, no, it is, because when you license it out to something, they claim it on YouTube, and you say, oh, copyright. That's like, I don't care. Fine. But then they demonetize the channel. And now I'm just trying to give me a human. The bot doesn't understand what's happened. Oh, file your appeal, dismissed, and so on. And so the channel clearly now it's been algorithmically or whatever hit, and there's no human to talk to undo this. So you try to make a bit of a stink on Twitter and see where it goes. You're on Rumble. You have locals as well.
I don't have locals, and not for any reason against them. It's actually just, and I've spoken with the people at locals many times. The way it happened. Another part of my history is, if you remember when Sargon got kicked off Patreon.
For sure.
Okay, so people who have been in my audience will know. I don't know if you know this, but so Sargon gets kicked off Patreon for saying the N-word in a non-hateful context on someone else's channel. That's how it happened. And I was part of many people who were at the time using Patreon, doing the sort of Twitter raging and angry pitchfork emails that you're talking about. And for whatever reason, at the time, the head of trust and safety at Patreon decides that I'm the guy. They're like, hey, let's arrange a call with Matt to inspire confidence within him, that because I'm emailing them, say, if I say the wrong word, are you going to delete my livelihood? I need to know that you won't do that. This connects to locals, I promise. Eventually it does. But I said, I need to know you're not going to delete my livelihood. I said, well, why don't you have a conversation with our the head of our trust and safety team off the record? And I said, okay, off the record. Right. In the same way that you're, this is a case where I definitely bent ethical standards, I think you could say, but I'll defend the move to this day. Even though they said off the record, for legal purposes, I did not record the conversation. I transcribed the conversation and I provided a transcript to the public based on the conversation for about an hour that I had with the the head of trust and safety at Patreon, where I asked her all sorts of questions about why the company was acting the way. And again, these were questions they would not submit to in a public forum. And I'm coming to her as not just a creator on Patreon, someone who earns his money through Patreon, but as a supporter of Sargon. I've long appreciated Sargon. I supported Sargon on Patreon. You axed my support for him without even emailing me or notifying me in any way. What kind of business model is that? So we go back and forth for about an hour. And in the interest of not just transparency for my business, but transparency for people who use Patreon to support people they like, as I did, I published that entire transcript. And that was another case where I kind of became the story. And after doing that, I deleted my Patreon, number one, because I don't trust them, and number two, because I kind of just betrayed the company. Again, I understand there's some ethical bending there to the extent I told them that it was off the record and I decided to publish it anyway. But I think that there's a big ethical betrayal from them telling us that we can build a livelihood there and then deleting us on a moment's notice because they think they don't like that we said a word somewhere. So, eye for an eye justice is what I consider that in the interest of public transparency. That's what brings us to local. So all of a sudden I ditched Patreon and I'm in a similar spot to kind of where I am now, like time to reinvent your business model. And so I built my own website that had support built into it. And right around that time, this is early 2019, Locals is in development / launching. And so by the time I just finished building my website and establishing my support base there, and Locals comes around. And it's not anything that Locals did wrong. In fact, I think they've got a great product, but it's like I don't want to split my support in that way. And I don't want to reinvent the wheel and rebuild it all again. So I just never did, even though I've been in communication with Locals several times in the meantime. And maybe since I'm rebuilding a lot of things now, it might be a time to get on the Locals bandwagon. But that's why. It's just like a timing thing that didn't really align.
Well, no, and Locals, I think, has been our lightning in a bottle because we're one of the earlier channels, and Barnes can see ahead of the curve better than me. But no, Locals is amazing. Rumble is amazing. People don't really appreciate, I don't think yet. Do you use Rumble Studio?
I don't use Rumble Studio. I use OBS and I just send my stream to Rumble. But people are raving about it. They say it's really good. So
well, I'm an idiot because someone had just actually DM'd me and asked me why I use StreamYard sometimes and Rumble Studio other times. There's one feature that they need to implement on Studio that when a guest comes in, if they don't know to disable their camera and mic, they'll pop in, at the stream. Whereas on stream, I bring them in. And so I don't want people embarrassing themselves, but I could have gone with Studio. No, the Studio Rumble Advertising Center, where you can in real time do the ads that they run if you're eligible for the campaigns. It's amazing because you get your ad revenue, but then you also can pull up sponsored videos, like pull up sponsors during a stream through Rumble Studio while you're using it.
Is that where you found the Buffalo, Oregon people?
They do campaigns there as well, but they're a direct sponsor of the channel, and so there's some overlap. But no, it's going to revolutionize it. Of the way people do live reads during streams, and you get big streams, and it's per view, and so there'll be a cap. But it's amazing, and I think
they're doing a great job. I'm hugely thankful for all the work they're doing over there, and to have a reliable place to go. Not just when things get bad on YouTube. Like I said, I'm staying on YouTube. People tell me like just quit there. They hate you, and I agree. They do hate me.
No, but it's stupid advice because it's cut off your nose to spite your face. Throw away the money that it's not about the money, but it's about, on the one hand, you don't bankrupt yourself for no better reason, and you don't turn off the biggest audience, the access to the biggest audience, out of spite. Use them for what they're worth. It's a mutually exploitive relationship, and drive the traffic to Rumble or Locals. Yeah,
my philosophy has always been where you want to watch the show, I'll bring it to you, whether I like that place or not. But for the most part with YouTube, it's like you people, I've spent over 10 years building, earning money for you. We're in this together. If you want me to go away, you must chop off my head yourself. You cannot. I'm not leaving. I'm not just packing up and walking out. I'm not giving you that satisfaction. You must ban me, and I'm not leaving until you do. And maybe that day will come, but it's not today, thankfully.
I love it. Well, this is, someone said good advice, and I'm not sure who they're talking about because Matt, you've given some damn good advice. But people, look at employees and they say they exploit the employers exploit their employees. And I had this idea of revelation one day. It's like, yeah, but it's also sort of a mutual exploitation if you know how to do it. Like I worked for a big law firm. They exploited me. I mean, they exploited me well. They paid like it was 80,000 Canadian and I think it got up to like 100,000 Canadian at one point. But I exploited them as well by gaining all that knowledge so that I could say, thank you very much for the investment. I'm off on my own right now, and I'm going to do bigger and better things. So you could exploit YouTube in as much as it exploits you too, by getting what you need out of it and getting your message out there and using it as a marketing advertising tool for the bigger and better things.
That's true. I hadn't even thought about it in that way. Like, even if you believe in the move to another place, and by and large, I do. Of course, I'm sitting here praising what Rumble's doing and ripping YouTube for betraying us. But even if it only serves that purpose of talking to people who aren't there to say, hey, go over to this other place, you're exactly right. There is
and not go over to do what we can't do on YouTube. Just go over there, because YouTube will screw you in as much as they screwed everybody else. And then you get the events that reach 100,000 people, like the Rittenhouse trials, the Johnny Depp trials.
Yeah.
You reach an audience that you might not have reached, and so it's not.
Those were the days, man. You've been on YouTube for a long time, right?
I'm celebrating my decade in November of this year. It's the most monumental, like, running into paths here.
You probably have a similar experience that I do. Where back in what I feel like was the peak of my YouTube excitement was probably like 2015 through 17, and maybe there was some time before that. But then back in the way I originally grew my channel is I had a response to the controversial video that Nicole Arbor made called Dear Fat People, in which she made fun of fat people for a whole bunch of reasons, and the whole internet freaked out. And this was, again, talking about like my free speech path. I was so bothered by the fact that people wanted her banned off the internet, not just disagreeing with her take on fat people, but wanting her punished for her take on fat people. And I put together a video. This is young, bright-eyed me. It's still up there. This is like 2015 sometime. I'm talking about like the importance of preserving the rights of people you disagree with to speak. And that video just took off to hundreds of thousands of views, which was insane. But so it was so awesome at the time. And I had a few over the course of the next few years go viral in the same way. When you knew that if I catch the right thing at the right time, like if I'm talking about what's in the public interest, and if I offer the right product on it, I'm never like, trying to search public opinion for what I should say, like, oh, it'll appeal to people if I say this. But I'm saying, if you have a view that is truly meaningful to people, and back when the algorithm actually prioritized interaction, like, wow, a lot of people like this video, there are a lot of comments on this, we should boost this because people are interacting with it. Anybody with a phone to record a video could catch that wave. And it was a real meritocracy in that way. Now, it doesn't matter if I make the best video I've ever made in the history of my career. It is going to get what it gets, and there's this clear ceiling on it. It will never be shown to a new eye. You're just stuck. And I don't say that to complain on my own behalf. I say that with regret, that it discourages the sort of people who might not get into the game otherwise. And it discourages people. We have a harder time seeing those sorts of videos from unknown people who have amazing things to say that should rise on their own merit. It sucks. It's not just about you or about me. It's about what wins in the public discourse, and it's not merit anymore, at least on YouTube.
It's being prioritized for the real estate, and it's not I harbor no grudges against Legal, for example. It's just clear that when you're in some sort of good graces, when you are the trusted source, you will get the prime real estate, and you'll get that much of an advantage over everyone else who has to scratch and claw, not through devious ways, but through being extra good, extra insightful to get to that real estate, to even get that exposure in the first place.
Totally.
If it's on the landing page, people just hit it. Now, I know you said I don't want to rush you out of here, and you can stay as long as you want, but I want
to get going in a little bit, but it's been a great conversation. So I don't mind a little extra for sure.
Okay, good, because I got some questions through the chat that I want to get to. Matt, sure. This is Itsy Bitsy Spider. Matt, do you have an official locals name? Can you have Viva link it? I'm going to talk with Matt when we're done here. He'll have a locals up by the end of the day.
It's locals.com, right? I know I have an account. Let me see if I can log into it.
Well, no, unless it's set up, don't. You got to do your proper launch. And
well, I know that they set one up for me because they're like, why don't you come over? We'll literally make it for you. And I just there is one, but you're right. I don't know. I might have multiple accounts because I'm not confident that this is actually my account.
We'll
public
figure it out
purposes.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a joke. Little Boy Scout says, Matt and I once made love. We met for a voluntary interview and we colluded over and over again, and I secretly paid him for his services.
So if you pay attention to our Sunday show, the Matt and Blonde show at all, Matt and I once made love is like a recurring chat gag where people make those jokes, and fittingly, it's been a part of the chat. So we're now on episode 430, and it's a weekly show. So we're many years into this. Matt and I once made love, as far as I understand from the show historians, dates back to episode 69, appropriately. And I have always had the philosophy, like, you don't police, even if you don't like jokes in the chat and you prefer people stop making them, the worst thing you can do is say, please stop making that joke. I don't like it. I'm not going to read any more of those jokes because, okay, now it's banned. So people want to make more of the jokes. So I've always thought, the Matt and I once made love thing will die a natural death.
Nope.
And it kind of has. I thought it actually kind of disappeared for a little while, and it's now it's having a resurgence. It's coming back.
It's one of the pillars of branding. People have something that they associate. It makes them feel. It becomes the unifying feature, or the unifying thing of everybody in there.
Although when you're a family man, and like I said, I work out of my parents' house, and my parents listen to my show, and I got children now, and so when I'm reading, most of the time it's innuendo that might not be horribly vulgar, but some of them are they're very explicit.
Well, let's go to the I say the kosher ones. Let's go to the non-sinful ones. Denise Antu says, God bless you on your path to Christ. Praise to you, glory to the Father and to the Son and the Holy Spirit, and as it was in the beginning, is now and forever shall be in the world. Amen. And we got Ginger Ninja, he's a member of our community, amazing guy. He says, I'm a couple minutes behind watching at 1.5. I love this, Matt. Many people think that people of the faith and their faith undergirds their morality are dumb and logically deficient or shallow. On the contrary, the most logical and self-reflective individuals, if they're honest, can't help but admit that objective morality has to have foundations. The Lord is that foundation, our rock.
Thank you, sir. I do know Ginger Ninja a little bit too, and I met him through your community, I believe. So,
Yeah,
he's actually a Russian agent too, because he came onto my Wednesday show to talk about his charity for building vets for houses for vets. So he's one of them.
Can you imagine how? I mean, it pisses me off. I was just listening to Tucker, and I forget who he was talking to, where they started talking about RT, and he's like, and Tucker says, like, someone's going to tell me I can't go on RT. It's going to make me want to go on RT every day of the week, which was sort of the revelation that I had, because I've done a bunch of interviews on RT. I've never gotten paid, and I've never asked, and might have even said no, because I don't like that, and I don't want that being the nature of the relationship. But like, it's only a matter of time, I suspect, before someone says, you've given one too many interviews on RT. You have a nice chummy relationship. Like, for someone to tell me who I can and cannot talk to, short of it being even a neo-Nazi, but I'll talk with a neo-Nazi because I'm curious to understand what they think.
Yeah.
It makes me want to talk with them more. And I don't understand how people get behind this madness, but it's not far off of getting people to rat out their neighbors for being commies, for not wearing masks, for not getting the jibby jab.
Well, I'm telling you, the demon people in the email inbox, if they had a button to dump my family and me in the fire without consequence, I believe they would do it. There is no moral restraint on these people. You are their friend or you are their enemy. There's no moral truth to the world. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as their power over you. That's why you got to watch out for the demon people. And that's why I'm on the path, man.
No, I so appreciate it. And I know people in my community are saying, Viva just admitted already. My one issue is that the team nature of activities is a deterrent to me. Like one of the things I disliked about I'm Jewish, born Jew, it's this fraternity that is based on nothing else than an element of identity. And I never wanted favor or punishment because I happen to have been born Jewish. And I don't want people patting me on the back. And I don't want to feel like I'm playing into some sort of team sport. But then the flip side is that ideologically, I do want to be with the people who are ideologically aligned on a substantive, meaningful basis and not the superficial identity basis.
Yeah. And isn't there some fundamental truth behind them? Can I flip it and interview you a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Because I think I know.
Well, I think I can deduce some of your perspective from that, but so what is your perspective on, say, God? Are you a believer in God, or do you balk at that question?
No, I think I don't. My philosophical answer would be between God and something that created it it can't be an accident on the one hand,
Hmm.
and the paradox of if there's no God, also, or if there's no ultimate creation, which I think is just the term for God. I think we all agree there is that element, and some call it God, and others call it the Big Bang. I struggle with the actual just metaphysics of either everything we knew came out of nothing, which is impossible. Either it's always been here, which is impossible, or it doesn't exist, which is impossible. And so I don't know. I think
So
I believe in God.
Okay, so you're coming at it more from like an origins of the universe perspective, which is valid. It's not the path that I took. For me, it's about origins of morality. That is
See-
to say, do you believe in an objective morality? There is a right and a wrong.
1,000% I do. There's
Okay.
no question about it. There's certain things that are not subjective. I don't believe in a consequentialist version of morality.
Mhm.
But it's now that you say that, I've only thought about it like when I go biking on the Everglades and I see dragonflies eating mosquitoes because the mosquitoes are in the shade of a tree. And so you see the swarms of dragonflies eating these mosquitoes. Then you look at a dragonfly, and then you realize that, like, when I discovered that every what do they call the microbiome of the stomachs of all animals are like microcosms of their own. And I said, like, okay, you want me to believe that that's an accident of like the arbitrariness of the universe?
Yeah.
What, that's more absurd than thinking that this is intelligent design. And then in which case, is intelligent design not
Well,
a God?
and from my moral perspective, there are moral components to what you're saying. Like, if instead of believing that human life is here for a purpose that we can observe, just sitting and watching it, if instead we believe the whole thing is an accident, that there is in fact no inherent purpose to human life, what is morality? If all of this is just a big accident that just happened to be here, what is wrong with going over and shooting my neighbor in the face because I kind of feel like it? What is the significance of his life? And by the way, this is hypothetical, Fed listeners. I'm not going to do that. I'm saying I believe there is inherent value and inherent purpose to my neighbor's life, which is the reason I would never do that and why it's wrong to do that, independent of what I say or think about it, but by the very nature of the universe. So that's what brings me to this, is what is the origin of that moral concept? And if you believe, as you're talking about, well, there really is no meaningful origin to the world. It just kind of happened. It just, the physics of it created a crazy explosion, and there's really no meaning other than we're here. But then what is morality? If everything is accidental, what is morality itself? How could there be a right and a wrong if there's no inherent purpose to it?
And that's the interesting thing, where is what I'm describing what other people view as God, where I don't believe it was an accident. I don't believe it's arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's beyond a design that could have ever happened by accident. And if you think that it's by accident, it should be static everywhere. I believe there's a fundamental value to life of all forms, period. And I believe there's objective morality. But I don't marry that with God. And then I say, well, then my belief in God will not change any way in which I'm going to live here, because even if there's eternal nothingness, I'm not going to go shoot my neighbor in the face. I'm not going to steal or cheat, because it's going to make me feel bad here, because it's going to violate what I think are objective moralities independent of God. But then I say my big flip side is, to reconcile some absolute miracles which would have otherwise, changed the course of the universe, and the absolute miracle of life in and of itself. If you say that is of intelligent design, then I think we're just talking about the same thing with a different name.
I've confronted a lot of that in my own path. That is to say, we all have similar, if not identical, conceptions of the world, about the rules of the world and the way you're describing, about the inherent value of certain things. We might describe them in different terms, in the same way I described my worldview different from Christian as of a week ago. But I realize fundamentally, whatever you call it, that is the lens through which I view the world. Like, why have I been on this Bible study path for a couple of years? Is it just to is it just to say I do it? Is it just to hang out with friends who join it? No, there's something about it. There's something that brings me back each and every week. Why? Why am I on this path? When you talk about, like, okay, you call it A, I call it B, or he calls it C. If you drill down on it and you're actually talking about the same thing by a different name, isn't there some kind of inherent truth to it? And that's why I'm not shy about the titles anymore. I've realized that, like, whatever I call them or however I acknowledge them, these are the same concepts, and I should just embrace them rather than fearing the potential consequences or obligations of holding that title.
It was Soren Kierkegaard who said the function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays.
Exactly. I was talking about this on my Bible study on Friday, and now a lot of people, and I don't know what my perspective is on this, but a lot of people believe that prayer is a direct interaction with God, a direct communication, and an appeal for a particular outcome. Like God exert will in this way and achieve this particular outcome. And I'm not trying to criticize that perspective. I'm saying from just like a minimalist perspective, if you don't believe in that direct connection to God, that you don't communicate with him in that way or make requests for him to achieve certain things in that way. At a minimum, prayer is what? It is deliberately reorienting yourself toward God's will. It is recognizing that there is an authority over you and over all the rest of mankind to which you are appealing because you realize that represents the ideal in all of us, like some higher thing that we ought to pursue. Even if you're not having a direct conversation like you and I are right now, you're still taking the time in your mind to reorient with that purpose. And that's the value of prayer for all the fedora tippers who say it's just talking to a sky wizard who's not real. No, it's thinking about moral origins and aligning yourself with them.
I tend to agree with you, man. One
Have
of
I
the other
converted you yet?
no,
That
well,
was
I mean,
my
one of
first
the
one.
one of my other struggles is trying to reconcile, not trying to reconcile, uh, trying to reconcile the I say like why do good things happen to bad people,
Mhm.
or trying to make sense of what could be described as the truism: bad things happen because God is God is testing an individual.
Mhm.
And I say like this is where I'm at with this revelation right now is that bad things happen to everybody, and the way in which people deal with them is impacted by whether or not they have a strength which they draw from prayer, a God or not, but let's just say from a God. And in that sense, to the extent that bad things will happen to everybody, the most constructive way people can deal with them is by and healthy way is by having some form of faith that there is something above and beyond the current suffering of the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've described that
I
properly.
couldn't phrase it any better. For good and joy and all of those positive things to exist, there must be something against which to contrast them. There must be bad, there must be suffering. For good to exist, there must be evil. And the great challenge for all of us, to the extent we exist in this flawed world and among flawed human beings, is to find purpose despite those challenges. I talk about the loss of my brother, for example. Everybody's got something comparable to them. You lose someone in your life, you have a tragic circumstance in your life. The most difficult thing you can face is moving on from that and giving that loss purpose. For me, it's been over a decade. I still think of the loss of my brother every single day and think about, is my life the sort of life that he would be proud of? As I mentioned, that's the sort. So I don't experience sadness or sorrow about that anymore. I experience a satisfaction. I experience a fulfillment that, like, man, I wish he could be here to see this because I think he'd be really proud of it. I wish he could be here to see his nephews, one of whom is named after him, because I bet he'd really enjoy running around the yard with them. To reframe loss and even evil or whatever you're confronting, to find purpose in it is the great challenge of being a human being. But I think we have a moral obligation to do it, to align ourselves with those godly purposes, joy, fulfillment, happiness, contentment, whatever you want to call it. That's the challenge. And I think through faith, people do that. So that's why I give it I give it the same endorsement as I give to the Buffalo Organ people. It's a very good product, Faith. I don't have a discount code yet, but
Man,
I would
I was
recommend it.
and Matt, we'll end it on this. I'm going to go carry over to Rumble, and I don't want to keep you longer than
Sure.
On a personal level now, above and beyond the temporal stresses of the incident, how is everybody doing?
Really great. Well, my family's fine. Let me put it that way. The business reality is going to be tough, but as we talked about with Patreon or something, I've confronted many challenges. I'll be fine. I will say, if you've enjoyed the last hour and you're interested in hearing more from me, you can head on over to mattchristiansenmedia.com and check out. Well, they deleted all my tenant stuff, but there's still some material up there, and I'll be posting on my own channels very shortly.
This is it right here.
Yes, that's my website, and And if you try to click any of those videos, you'll notice they're gone now.
Oh,
They were
really?
taken. Try playing one. Can you try playing that one with Clarence Thomas or this one with Tim Walz? Just hit
It
the play
seems
button.
that nothing. Well, nothing.
Well,
yeah,
no, hit the one in the middle. It's kind of obscured, but yeah, hit that play button, just the triangle. Oh, look, they're gone. Yeah, you can't watch them anymore.
Oh yeah, why? Why? Because it was content that was allegedly indirectly funded by alleged Russia. It's such.
Yeah.
Trying not to swear. Do you swear, Matt? You don't seem like you swear very much.
No, well, if you listen to my streams, you'll know that I indulge. But I try to be professional, especially I don't know what your rules are, so that's mostly why.
Oh
I try
no,
to be
I don't care.
respectful.
My chat,
Yeah.
our locals crowd is trying to get me to swear less.
Yeah.
Hold on, professional profanity, or there's a shirt in there. I have to think this one through. I'm going to give everybody the link before we hit the part. So there.
Speaking of vulgarities, and this is another shout out to my audience. So my website is mattchristiansenmedia.com, as I said. Now, thank you for spelling it correctly, because half the smear pieces this week
Put
did
the
not.
O-N on it.
No, you did spell it correctly. It's S-E-N. It's Danish.
Yeah, for sure.
Christian like the religion, S-E-N. But I got it. It's my name's long. Someone had mattchristiansen.com, whoever that SOB is. So I had to go with mattchristiansenmedia.com when I picked the domain back in 2019. One of my audience members said, no, I've had enough of this. And back during Pride Month, I think it was 2 years ago, GoDaddy had announced that they now had .gay domains. So you could get .gay. And so they said, you know what? I bought you a new URL. Now it's mattis.gay. And so if you prefer brevity, if you prefer efficiency to find me, go ahead and just type in mattis.gay. And I promise you it's safe. I'm not.
Matt is
.gay. You'll see my face as soon as you type it in. And so for people who are new to me, you want to find me, mattis.gay. It's the most efficient way.
It's funny, I would have never even read it as Matt is. I would have read it as mattis.gay.
Yeah.
Which is because Mattis is also a legit name. Okay, this is amazing. First of all, we are officially friends now. So done. I'm friends with the Russian agent.
Yeah.
MattChristiansenmedia.com. You're on Rumble. What's your schedule? I know it's Sunday night because I think we either overlap or conflict. Daily.
We're usually right after you guys. You guys are going before, because we go at 9 Eastern. I think you guys are a little earlier, right?
Yeah, we typically end before 9, but every now and again we do a 3-hour butt-killing marathon.
Yeah.
Weekly schedule. What's your weekly schedule? So
it's going to return to the same schedule it was before. Just now, it's all on my own channels. But I post short, kind of single topic focused videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And then the stream product I'm referencing is the Matt and Blonde show on Sunday nights. That's right after you guys. I've been doing that for years. We used to do, before the Tenet thing, so on Tenet, I had a stream on Wednesday nights called the Matt Christiansen Hour, and I was trying to be a little more guest focused with that. Obviously, that's over now because Tenet's over now. So Blonde and I are talking about bringing a new product back to Wednesday. We used to do a call-in show on Wednesday nights where we'd just take calls from our audience and talk about anything. I think we will bring calls back in some capacity, but I haven't formalized what exactly that Wednesday stream is going to be. And frankly, I'm nervous too, given the looming election. I just don't want to build. I don't want to put all this effort into building something brand new and have them meddle even further. So I'm just kind of hanging out till election day and then reassessing. But bottom line, since I'm being so long-winded, videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays, streams on Sunday and Wednesday nights. That's what I run. And if you want to check it out, mattis.gay. It'll all be posted.
I'll put mattchristiansenmedia.com in the link. And I would say, Matt, seize the opportunity, embrace it. You're a Russian agent, run with it, and strike while the iron is hot.
The nice thing is, on your show with Barnes, do you guys do a Halloween show? Do you guys do Halloween costumes?
No,
we've done it every year. And the last couple of years, we haven't had great, I think the last great one we did was poor taste, but we did Kyle Rittenhouse and Gage Grosskreutz after, and I did the wound and everything. My wife's very good at that. Anyway, this year we don't have to think creatively. It's definitely, it's Russian outfits, it's vodka, it's all the whole bit. It's going to be a very fun Halloween show. I don't have to stress about that. The costumes are now built in.
It's fantastic. Anyways, I will thank you for, first of all, thank you for talking about it, because it's not fair that people come to their conclusions without even hearing the people speak, and I appreciate it's risky talking about something that's pending. You're not yet, and I don't think you'll ever be in any realm of the sane universe a defendant or any meaningful party to this. But the damage
next week.
Yeah, well, no, that's it. I mean, we'll both check back in next week. It's like, oh, Viva, I saw you spreading Trump propaganda on RT last week. But no, thank you. It's amazing, and I think I know everybody involved, and I think I know it of this story, and it's a load of crap. And we're going to find out it's a load of crap. It's just going to be 2 months later after the election.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But
Matt,
thank you for hosting me, man. It was really great to connect again, and I appreciate the opportunity to get the story out, or at least what I understand is the story. I think you're exactly right that what is alleged in that indictment is not the full truth of what happened. And anybody who still believes every word of the Justice Department and the feds in general, how many more episodes of this do you need to see before you exercise some skepticism?
there's no explaining it, and I would say if anybody's part of the sowing discord aspect of this story, it's the ones feigning outrage and calling for the cancellation of everyone involved. It was what the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid. Everyone flipped out about abusive, fabricated evidence. Yeah, this has got to be legit. This time they really got it. Matt, I'm going to put all your links in the pinned comment, and I'm going to go over to Rumble and then Locals. We are in touch now. Let's keep in touch. And
of course, thank you thank you for hosting, and thank you for your coverage of the story. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon. All right, people. Now I feel bad kicking someone from the studio. It feels so rude. Hold on. Remove. Stop screen. Everybody, what we're going to do right now, because I still got some stuff to talk about. Matt's amazing. Period. Nobody can watch that and think that there's anything of bad faith in this person. Oh, I bet anybody who watches that, first of all, I've known Matt and I've seen a lot of his content, and I go to him. I won't overstate how often, but often enough for a story that I don't yet know about, because I know I'll get a good take and a good summary of. Anybody who watches that and then comes away saying that Matt's got something to hide, that Matt's a bad man, is an idiot. Period. The world is filled with idiots, but that's a reality. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Here's the link to Locals. This is a link. Is this Locals or Rumble? This might be Rumble. No, that's Locals. I hear a dog trying to crawl into it. Here's Locals. Come on over to Locals if you're so inclined. I'm going to read the rest of the chat, the rest of the Rumble rants and super chats. And here's the link to Rumble. Let me just do it here while they're here so we can do this. We got $20 from Ryan Allen. Period. Ryan, I hope you did not mean. I hope you meant well. If you meant to put a comment and try to get it in, and don't do another super chat. And thank you very much, regardless, for the support. One old guy's opinion says, look no further than the template used for January 6th and the infiltration of Trump's administration. The infiltration of Trump's administration was back in 2016. January 6th was the Fedsurrection, so they could manufacture that bullcrap insurrection narrative, so they can then try to get Trump off the ballot 3 years later. But 1,000%. Old guy's opinion, DOJ is run by Marxists. This country is slipping into the unholy pit of authoritarian through Marxist ideology and worship of daddy God state government. I will agree with that, but I'll only reiterate what Jack Posobiec said about Marxism. It's not an ideology, it's a war tactic. But for all intents and purposes, we're talking about the same thing. Cameron Vesey. Dude, you're the same Cameron from our Locals community. Unions can make money only one way, more membership, and so they become counterproductive, squishing more people in the wrong tent. And Cameron says, I was once kicked off the Beauty and the Beta, became an instant legend. I was once kicked off the Beauty and the Beta, became an instant legend in Matt Discord, stayed on the Discord for hours. Matt's Discord, funnier than Disneyland. I've never been on a Discord. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what Discord looks like. I'm trying to think if I have ever been on one by accident. I don't know what Discord looks like. I don't like the idea of what a Discord sounds like. It sounds like a Reddit board, and I want to have nothing to do with them. Brother, the son of Yah, rejoiced in the heavens. Old guy's opinion. We got Dusselov Akmankadi. Haven't seen. No, I've seen you. You've been around. You haven't not been around in a while. How do you justify accusation as proof of guilt? Oh, unnamed accusation. Like there's no. They don't even name the players. They just thinly veil it, and then it's a freaking wrap-up smear hit piece a la Nancy Pelosi. And then we got a bunch over here. Sundays are great with Viva and Barnes, followed by Matt and Blonde. That's from Maura Mac Grendel. Maggie Rose 1521. Prayer is absolutely a conversation with God, not for prosperity gospel, but in order to thank, praise, confess, and let God know your concerns. Luke 18:1, the parable of the persistent window. Let me screen grab this so I know what to read when I go on my bike ride this afternoon. The preferred link is mattis.k. That's from Matt Grandel. Thank you. Pinochet's helicopter tours. Haven't seen you. Well, I've seen you also very often. I'm not a Russian agent, but speaking from experience, Matt, if the feds become a problem, it's a short flight to reach international waters by helicopter. Okay. King of Biltong in the house. Good afternoon from Anton's. Biltong is one of the most protein-dense foods in the world, packed with B12, zinc, iron, creatine, and more. I think my wife, actually, Anton, was just picking up the stuff at... she picked up the stuff, man. Hey, Ethan! You got the Biltong? Can you bring it here? Need a healthy snack? Get yours at Rumble. www.rumble.food. Hey, Anton, did you get a... I'll call you after. I want to know if there's an arrangement here. Viva 10% off. Matt, do you have an official locals name? Okay, we got that one. On Minds, no one is permanently banned. You go before a board of peers when you violate a rule. Graphene Iron Crossland talks about that. That's from TZ Burton. We got Beefers. Life lesson here for everyone. Let them make you an offer first so you don't self-scam yourself. Or you can go with the Grant Cardone 10x option. You know, whatever you think you're worth, multiply it by 10. I'm always guilty about asking for more than I think I'm worth. I don't like, but then you end up negotiating with yourself. Sort of like you come in with what you think is a fair and reasonable assessment, knowing that they're going to come down. And then you end up like, oh, I'm just negotiating down. I don't do a Grant Cardone 10x because that's too much. 3x, do 3x. I have followed Matt for 4 years now. Can't believe it. Saw his views change over time, slowly at first, but the acceleration became rapid. Still absolutist with my principles. Uber alles, Matt. And then we got Matt and I once made love. Okay, so now I got that. And now, hold on a second. See if the kid's going to bring it. And then we got a bunch of tips in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Merchant Marine, $5 says, just saying hi. How did the Hard Rock party go? Merchant Marine, first of all, the party itself was secondary. Hanging out with Lectern guy and his wife. I saw Kimberly Guilfoyle. I got to meet, I took a picture with Ron DeSantis. I'm going to try to get that picture and put on blast that Ron DeSantis just took a picture with a Russian asset. And met Rick Scott. Rick Scott was actually kind of funny in that I meet him, tell him I'm from Montreal. And then he says, oh yeah, isn't Kamala Harris from Montreal? I'm live right now. Would you like to say hi to the world? I'm opening my shipment of Biltong. Was there anything else? Kid's not talking to me. All right, hold on 1 second. Check this out. Opinel, a very nice French knife made in France. I'll make sure. Oh, this is okay. There's no home address on that, but just in case. Okay. Oh yeah. This is a unboxing. And now you always fold up the knife. Flipping knife. There we go. Okay, there we go. And checky. Yes. Wagyu. Here, check this out. This is the Wagyu. U.S. Wagyu. It's a nice, soft. Oh, yeah. It smells so good. Wagyu Ghost. Very, very spicy, people. Even for me. Angus. And Angus Peri Peri. This one, I think the Peri Peri is a little less spicy than the Angus. Okay, put these over here. If I put these on the ground, the dog will eat them. And then we got these gel packs, which they say you only use once, but oh no, these say reusable. Nice. Anton, thank you. Okay, now back into the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Just saying hi. Then we got Finboy Slick says, you already have a Discord, Viva. Just poke Encryptus for the link. There's a bunch of us in there making memes and sharing. I am not joining a Discord. Nothing good happens after midnight, and nothing good happens in Discord. We got our link. We got our reply section, our chat. And that's all I need. Then we got Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock Attorney, $5 says, thanks, Viva and Matt, for a good show. Sorry for being absent for a while. I've had a lot of work to catch up on. I've been watching, but was having trouble catching your live shows. Arkansas, Little Rock Attorney is a real attorney, a practicing attorney. I'm still a real attorney, just not practicing, who does a lot of work and a lot of good work. So Arkansas, thank you. Finboy Slick says, be glad, Viva, that your Matt and I made love is just the mullet thing. Then we got Mighty Pay. Viva, please take a look at this post. Very flattering, and you are referenced. You make a difference in people's lives. Am I going to cry if I read this? I'll read it afterwards just in case I cry. This is coming from a member of our community. Yeah, it's long. Okay, it's a longer post. I'll read that. I'll read that afterwards, and I'll give an executive summary. Okay, we're going to end on YouTube. Come on over to Rumble. How many do we have on YouTube? It doesn't matter, but come on over. to Rumble, Viva Barnes Law, locals.com. Ending on YouTube, we're going to just do a few more stories over on the Rumble local side. So YouTube, adios.